Ira now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to Voices being brought to you by Radio Zindagi. I'm your host, Rennu Dhillon from Genius Kids, back on my favorite time of the week, every Thursday at 12 o'clock. And today is going to be a very special show because we are bringing women empowerment today. So definitely everybody should be tuned in. So if you haven't tuned in, stop whatever you're doing, grab your cup of chai, or if you're drinking a beer in the morning, I don't know. Nowadays with Corona, people do all kinds of weird, wacko stuff. But just join us because definitely you're going to need a strong drink to listen to all our panelists today, because today we have brought with us women community leaders who are going to be standing for the elections. As you know, last week, Voices has started a series of programs where we're going to be giving a platform to all the South Asian community leaders who are standing for elections. And we want to make sure, as Radio Zindagi, our job is to give you a platform. Your job is to present yourself to the community to get the votes that you need. We remain neutral. We don't represent any parties here, or we don't endorse anybody other than bring you on the show and make sure that you have an opportunity in that platform. So with that note, I want to begin by first thanking, of course, Neeraj and Seba from Radio Zindagi for giving this opportunity. This is a show for the community and by the community. And of course, for choosing me to host it. I love doing this and I thoroughly enjoy it. We started this during the Corona time and it's just turned into a fabulous show. So thank you so much for that. And of course, my favorite RJ, Miss Ira. And Ira will continue our other hot conversation after the show. On that note, there was a quote that one of my favorite quotes. I wasn't a big fan of Maggie Thatcher when I was being raised in England. But probably one sensible thing she said was that when you want something said, you ask a man, but when you want something done, you get it done by a woman. And that's the reason why we have all these amazing ladies with us this afternoon. So in no particular order, I'm going to introduce them briefly, and then each of them will spend a couple of minutes giving their own background. And if your background could be tied into why you're coming into politics, okay, a little about your personal life, of course, and then why you're coming into politics. So let's begin with Sri. Welcome to the show, Sri.
Thank you so much. Really glad to be here.
Sri grew up in the Tri-Valley and she later earned her BA and MS from Stanford University. Oh, I got a smart cookie over here. She holds experience across policy and economic development and has worked in organizations like the US Department of State. And on that note, she's running for Dublin City Council. So welcome to the show and tell us a little bit about yourself, Sri.
Thank you so much, Rennu. Really excited to be here. I grew up in the Tri-Valley, as I mentioned before, and I've seen the city grow and change so quickly over the past 2 decades. And I think that especially this year, it has been really, really important for me to see and kind of rise up to run for Dublin City Council because of sort of the challenges that our country has been facing around coronavirus, the economic slowdown, the climate crisis where we were almost pushed out of our homes. And so I think for me, it was really important for me to kind of rise up and join and run for Dublin City Council. But for background, as I mentioned, I went to Stanford, really focused a lot of my time there focusing on economic development and policy. So I worked on human rights research at the US Department of State. I worked on technology research for the former National Security Advisor. And then I also have experience across economic development with the Federal Reserve and the World Bank. And now currently work as a venture capital investor where I'm actually driving jobs to be created here in the local Bay Area. And so as we think about running for Dublin City Council, my main priorities were around how to shape the future, especially for the next generation as we deal with a lot of the challenges around climate, housing, affordability, and other such issues. But I'm really excited to be on the show and happy to share more.
Thank you. Well, you know, when you came on, the first thing I said is, I thought you were in high school. So I'm wondering, how have you managed to do all of this stuff? You look really young. So I commend you for all that you've done. So thank you so much for that. And welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to it. And now our next guest is Aparna. Aparna is running for mayor of San Ramon, and she's hoping to inspire others to step up in the future and serve without any inhibitions about race, religion, color, or gender. So welcome, Aparna.
Thank you, Rennu, and thank you, Radio Zindagi, for this opportunity. Yes, and that is my motivation for me and for others to see and not think. If you're thinking and you're passionate about something, just jump in. Don't worry about your background, your race, color, just ignore that. It's a part of the territory, and it is something you'll enjoy if you're really passionate. I have lived in San Ramon for 23 years now. I serve as the chair of the city's Open Space Advisory Committee. And one of the reasons I stepped up to run is now we all know the housing mandates that are coming from Sacramento. So our city will definitely need a mayor who understands how the land use planning works, how it pans out, where we need housing, how much of it goes in a particular area, particularly affordable housing that we all talk about, but what it means. I have a master's in rural and urban geography, and land use planning is my specialty. Who else can serve the residents and the businesses of San Ramon better than a mayor who already understands how this housing mandate would work for our city? So that is one of my major motivations for running, and I hope to inspire many more citizens by doing this. Thank you.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you. Thank you for that. Welcome to the show. And our next guest is Nisha Sharma. Nisha Sharma is a mom, a wife, a business entrepreneur, and a community servant for decades. And she's standing, I believe, for a position in San Ramon, right? If I'm not mistaken. Right,
No,
Nisha? So
I'm running for Congress. It's
for
federal.
Congress. Okay, so I'm the worst person to ask about politics. But if you want to talk about a president, I'm happy to do that. But I promised Seb I wouldn't say a word. So over to you, Nisha.
Thank you so much, Rennu. And it's an honor to be here with all these wonderful women here. All of them are contributing a lot by standing up and raising their voices in the political arena. So I'll just begin with a very brief intro of mine. My name is Nisha Sharma, running for Congress in District 11. And my main motivation of running and stepping up is that I want to do it for our upcoming generations. As a first generation immigrant here, I feel lucky. I am blessed enough that I was provided all the opportunities that I really worked hard for. And by God's grace, I am successful too. But I think it's just not that part I came here to do. I want to contribute. I want to give back to this land of opportunity. How? I just want to lead an example here for our upcoming generations that we Indians, when we come here, we do not just come here to pursue our American dream. We are not only takers, we are givers. So how I can do that is that by stepping up in the political arena, by a representative of my district in Congress, being their voice there. I want our upcoming generations to be very, very proud of their grassroots. How I can do that? By just sticking to my values and also going for my all responsibilities that I have on my shoulder. In my district, when I saw that nobody was running against an incumbent, I felt the urge that it's a responsibility. If somebody's not doing their job rightly, we should be stepping up and raise our voices and ask questions. I just don't want to be a mute spectator and just wait for the right person to come and run and represent us. I think I have that thing in me. I can do it well. And I am very excited to represent my district in Congress in Washington. So that's what motivates me the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Naz Mahika Khan. We go back a long time ago, back to, if I'm not mistaken, Shiraz Jivani. And Naz comes from a humble beginning in Fiji to education in India, having a bachelor's degree from the University of Phoenix, and now a longtime resident in Fremont, running for the mayor of Fremont. Welcome, Naz.
Thank you very much, Renuji. Yes, it's great having you on the show. It's been always pleasure working with you and knowing you in the community, yourself doing so wonderful. I thank Radio Zindagi for having us live on this session today. It is a pleasure being with all the beautiful ladies, and especially women empowerment is one of my great essence that I would say that I really enjoy and inspire women who inspires and does a lot of wonderful work amongst the community. I am Naz Mahika Khan. I'm running for mayor of Fremont, a city I love and has been my home for many years. I am a mother, a single mother of a son who is now in US Air Force. So you can imagine a mom who sends her own child, his own part of her body to another country to serve our country, how much American you can be. So we at this time, I believe that we are losing American values due to coronavirus, of course, COVID-19 and unemployment. And then we have the Black Lives Matter. So these things have really drained people's energy, and quality of life also is diminishing. And I believe that because of that, now when I saw that, that this is actually what can bring the power, what can bring the government down. Because if people come together, and they really see from the humanity point of view, that's when you wake up and say, this is a wake up call. That it's not about that you are in politics that you can make a difference. You can be a person like you and I, stand up for the values of the Americans, of our people, our next generation. And if a mother can take care of a family that well, I'm sure the mother can make a lot of difference in the community, in the city, especially when you send your own child to be out there and taking care of the lives of most of the Americans, whether you know them and you don't. When you stand up for somebody else's life and serving outside of the country as well, this is a huge responsibility. So because my son left and I said I have a lot of time, also since I have been serving the community for many years, being in the radio station, being an executive at the financial industry, and I have a bachelor's degree in industrial relations, personal management from University of New Delhi, and also I have a degree in business here in University of Phoenix. So I believe that a leader needs to be grounded regardless of what kind of qualification you have, and you are not arrogant, you can take knee to the lost brother, then this is the time we want to say that it is somebody for us to take care of our seniors also, because seniors are being moved out of this city because there's the disconnect between their grandchildren and grandparents. So we want to keep up to our values. We want to live to the dreams of our founding fathers. So this is what inspired me to make sure that I come back and stand up as a woman, as a mother, and as a human being for all of us who need us at this time the most than ever before.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. And yes, for those who've just tuned in, you're listening to Voices being brought to you by Radio Zindagi. And today we have all our women community leaders, and we're giving them the opportunity and a platform to present why they should win the next elections for the positions that they are standing for. So my first question to each and every one of you, and if you could just answer this briefly before we get into the other questions, is everybody always wants to know, what is your experience in politics? I mean, a lot of people ask me to stand for, politics, and I refuse to do that because I know the day I open my mouth about politics, I wouldn't be around the next morning because I just don't know how to keep quiet. So, and I don't know, I can't spell diplomacy to save my life. So on that note, I'll begin with Sri. Sri, I know you've given us all your educational background and your involvement, but what experience do you have in politics in particular for the listeners to say, well, you know what, I should maybe cast my vote for this young lady?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for this question. I think it's really important. So I actually started getting involved with politics from a young age. I volunteered on Congressman Jerry McNerney's campaigns in both 2010 and 2012, and helped volunteer for Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016 as well. And through my time, I've also focused a lot of my efforts around policy, because I think it's really important to have not just the experience with politics, but also understanding policy and how it impacts a lot of the interdisciplinary issues around our community. And so, as I mentioned, I worked at the State Department, focused on human rights policy around the Middle East. I studied Arabic, lived abroad in Oman and Turkey. I think it's really important to have diversity in experiences and perspectives so that you can also represent a community as diverse as Dublin. And so beyond those experiences in politics, I've obviously got involved in a lot of the local chapters of, for example, Democratic Club, and volunteering across different campaigns. But I think, as I mentioned, it's really important to have experience in policy and decision-making around that, not just in foreign policy, for example, in the case that I have, but also across economic development, where I worked with the Federal Reserve and the World Bank.
Wonderful, thank you. And I know we have in the city of Dublin, we have Arun, who's standing for the mayor of Dublin, and Dublin's definitely very much a growing city, and I think it's stealing a lot of our Fremont residents, and that makes me a little upset, but that's okay. We've opened a couple more campuses in Dublin now, so we're good. So on that note, Aparna, how about you?
So I agree with you, Rennu. You need diplomacy to be in politics, a lot of it. And I know you're aware of certain areas where I had to be very diplomatic in responding to certain not so positive emails that I received. I don't have a background in politics. My dad is a retired Army vet. So I consider myself a person of the community, very happy being a community volunteer. But as the chair of the advisory committee, open space advisory committee for our city, I started seeing a lot of things in the policy making, decision making, how it impacts the residents overall. But much before that, even before I joined the committee, I was educating myself in understanding governance policies to see if this was the right fit for me, if this is something I enjoy. And I always enjoyed this. I always enjoyed reading about political stuff going on, not just here, but also in India. So I always gravitated towards that. And then the census appointment that came in last year, I worked as the District 2 representative in Contra Costa County. I worked with city councils up and down the 680 corridor. That gave me an experience like no other. It was almost like you did the training. Now you're in the field and now do your job. How you get the census count up is how diplomatically you work with all the different agencies. And I feel very proud to say Contra Costa's District 2 is one of the highest counts right now in the nation, in California, in the nation. So that was a huge achievement given we were closed. We didn't do any events during the pandemic, but people still responded. And many cities are now reaching the full count for District 2, almost a full count. So that's my experience. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. We're actually having a lot of questions coming in from the general audience. I'm getting them on my phone, but we'll wrap up this round and then we'll definitely get to the questions. I know I also have specific questions from all of you, but for us, if the listeners can send in their questions, and those are the ones we want to target first, of course. So Nisha, what about you? What's your experience in politics prior to standing for this election? Oh, you need to unmute yourself. Can't hear you.
Yeah. So, Rennu, I do not have a particular any background from politics, but yes, I'm a very, very community person. I've been deeply working with all the communities from the last decade. And how I'm deeply connected with them is by working as a chairwoman at Women Empowerment and FIA and FOG. And we bring more than 200,000 people together for all the festivals here and connected with them. We celebrate all the festivals, either it's Holi, Diwali, or Toys Drive for Christmas, and all of these events throughout the year. And also I've been part of these communities and really having my own ideas there that what the lawmakers are doing it. So I always had a strong saying in that. But what happens is those things end up in a meeting or in your living room. But what I see is we have to raise our voices now. I want to be one of the lawmaker. I want to be sitting with them on the table and have a saying what I want. Either it is our taxation system or immigration system. We don't want that these lawmakers just make the policies for us and they just impose on us. No, I want to have a saying. As an Indian immigrant here, I see a lot of Indian Americans here who contribute a lot towards the economy. Our community is well known for that. We are a hardworking community. But what we are lacking is we do not have a saying. We do not have a representation, especially in Congress. And even the people who are there, I see that they fail badly in representing us. Why? Because they are leaving their values behind. And they are very much worried about their politics career. I'm not a career politician. I want to serve people. I want to be in the office to be their voice. I'm not going there for my career. By God's grace, we have been successful here and I'm blessed enough for that. But I think that is not me. I want to serve this country. I love America because this country has provided me enough opportunities. And my kids, I'm raising them here. What kind of country I want them for there? And that's what makes me that I should step up. It's never too late. It's never too early. Whenever you feel you should step in. And I encourage other women too, that please do join the political arena. This is very important.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Naz, over to you. You've chosen a tough position to stand for elections, the mayor of Fremont. And as you know, Fremont has so many issues right now. So Give us a, I can give you a whole bunch of them myself, having my businesses over here, but I'm not going to start with you on that. If you do win, then I definitely will come with all my questions to you. But as of right now, give us a reason why. What's your experience in politics? And why do you feel that you could stand for this position?
But then, since you know me for a long time, you would know that whether I would be the right person to be able to make a difference in your lives. That is wonderful thing would be. Well, great question. Thank you very much for that question. And understanding that, yes, there are a lot of problems in Fremont. You are not the only one who's been very disappointed. I hear this every now and then. And since, like, when I go out to people, ask them about what is your views on parks? And what are your views on the infrastructure? What are your views on the road condition? As you see and hear about that every day. So I'm not a career politician, like many of us here, the candidates running at this time. I am one of you. I always say that. And I don't have any greed for no name, no fame, and not here to climb any food chain. I already have a name to what I understand. A lot of community people know me just because of being in the community for over 20 years that I have served, also being in the radio, that I have worked with FIA, FOG, as well as FANA, which is the American National Association. I supported the education also in young and adults. I have also served hunger and homeless, worked in food banks, donated my time to community in many different areas and various and diverse communities of education and everything. So I understand the difficulties being a single mother for so long, for almost like 15 years. So it's not that, I had somebody working with me as my spouse or, better other that was supporting me financially, or my rent or my housing or my education of my child. I became a good friend of my ex, but that is not just enough being there all the time. So, and also on top of that, not forgetting that I have senior parents that I'm taking care of them. So if an individual, as a strong mother, as a single mother, who at this time were able to still get your child's education completed and have him serve the country, that itself is a huge accomplishment, because you are just amongst 1% of the Americans who are letting your son go into military. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter that you are either in a political minded person or not. It needs to be a person who has a clear mind, a good, sincere heart, that you have a right direction, you are focused because you want to know what your priorities are, what people mean, what they're really looking into themselves. Because every time when you talk to somebody, I worked in a financial industry, in a bank. And so we have already educated and talked to youngsters how to take care of your financial issues in a very early age. So at that time, we also meet people of all walks of life, whether being in the radio or at the financial industry. And we understand how difficult it is for them to meet their day-to-day living. And so we hear about the seniors, what they go through. So we are not just the person who provide you financial advice. We also give you a moral and other type of support that the people need during their difficult times. And to connect with people and understand, first of all, if you are a leader, you have to.
So we need to move on a little bit now. Let's just quickly wrap up because I need to move on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know you're getting very passionate about what you're saying, but I have a whole bunch of questions to ask. Yeah.
Absolutely. So then we want to make sure that we listen to them and we ask them questions to better understand their needs. So that's the reason why I have this a huge background of supporting the community. And I believe having all those situations being around us, having infrastructure, the affordability of the housing, having the very poor parks and stuff, we want to make sure that we improve that and help our community. So that is the reason why I am here, not to being a politician, but what people.
Great. Good. Thank you so much. I know everybody gets very passionate and you want to really get into it, but we have so many questions, and that's why I'm looking at my phone. I have a whole bunch of questions here. So one of the first questions, which, as we all know, which is really tearing everybody apart right now because of the coronavirus, is the vaccine. Everybody has so many different thoughts on the vaccine, and definitely, as you know, we're a women group today. We're all women, and many of us are moms. So my first question to all of you individually, if you could just answer that briefly, is what are your thoughts on the vaccine? There's a lot of pressure being put about this vaccine being released early, even sometimes before the third trials. And announcement yesterday was that there's possibly going to be a vaccine coming out. What are your thoughts, Sri? I'll begin with you. Would you take the vaccine, or would you, if you have children, would you give the vaccine to your kids if it were out or if it was made compulsory?
I think if it's been gone through the proper drug trials and it's been approved by the FDA, I would definitely get the vaccine and have my family and friends also encourage them to get the vaccine. I think it's important to be a community where you can prepare yourself for future rollout of, for example, when we actually start opening up our county again, we need to make sure that we're prepared rather than, for example, having the second round of coronavirus cases as we've been having now. So I definitely would get the vaccine, but I'm a big advocate of making sure we go through the proper procedural trials, make sure that it's compliant with the government, that there have been enough testing. I don't think we should roll it out early because in that case, we might pose the risk of unintentionally hurting and maybe.
And what is your, while I have you on.
I think we wrap.
Are you still on? Because I kind of lost you there. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm
okay.
Right.
And while I still have you, one other question, and then I'll move on to Aparna. What are your thoughts on the BLM movement? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, obviously, it's a big sort of crisis that our nation has been facing around how to address racial justice in our communities, especially in the Bay Area where we are such a diverse community. I think how we need to think about this, especially for Dublin, is we are contracting out our police services from the Alameda County, but there is a large percentage of our funding that can actually be expanded and into mental health services as well as first responders to address some of the issues where you don't necessarily need police services for for those types of issues. For example, if someone has like a mental health episode and we need someone to kind of talk them through and de-escalate it versus using force in that case. But I know that, for example, in our community also there is the fear of making sure that we want to make sure that our community is safe and protected. And I think that because Dublin is such a safe community and we've had a great history working with our public services and public safety responders, that I think that we can continue to both support the Black Lives Matter movement while also ensuring that our community is safe.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And yes, for those who tune in, you're listening to Voices on Radio Zindagi. If you want to ask any questions to this wonderful group of ladies today, please go to our Facebook and message right in, and we'll definitely ask the question. So moving over to you, Aparna, same questions. Your thoughts first on the vaccine. Would you be taking it? Would you be having your children take it? And then your thoughts on the BLM movement.
Well, my daughter is working and living in Virginia. She has no plans to come back to San Ramon or the Bay Area. She said, improve the traffic congestion, I may consider. So that's not happening, obviously, in the Bay Area. But regarding the vaccine, I know they're trying to push it up to November of this year, is what I read today. My concern with anything that gets pushed and they're trying to roll it out earlier than what is needed, it reminds me of my childhood when you had to get your report card signed and you wait the entire weekend. And then when your dad is ready to head out for work, that's when you're rushing to get it signed. There is something missing there, right? You get the point that the fine print, that is not really okay when you're rushing. It is something of a proportion that it will impact a lot of people. Rushing through something like this without proper testing, FDA, I think FDA does a great job, but FDA has also failed in many places where they prove something and years later we found out the implications of it were not so positive. This is people's health, children, seniors, adults, young adults. We do not want to mess with people's health just because we feel we need to find a cure and rush through that. So no, I will not rush through it immediately. I would not encourage people in our community to rush through it till everything has been established, the guidelines have been taken care of, and everything has been adhered to. And then, yes, if it is all safe, if it has been proven safe, then yes, I would be front and center, encourage my family and all our residents and businesses in San Ramon to participate. Definitely.
Thank you for that. And your thoughts on the BLM movement?
Now, the BLM movement, I have been looking at what's been going on around the nation. Cross-cultural alliances and partnerships are extremely important when you're addressing race-related issues. Symbolic gestures by politicians, my God, those have been done for decades. Lip service, and where are we today? Nothing has changed. Nothing seems to change. It is every time something happens that there are these marches, protests, and we are back to square one. I see the problem. The root problem is that there has been no effective policy change that has happened. And that is a result of the systemic racism that is so deeply embedded in our communities that it just refuses to go away. So for our city of San Ramon specifically, I am the founding member of our Diversity Coalition Committee. It's the San Ramon Valley Diversity Coalition Committee, which was started by our current mayor and 4 or 5 residents. And a police officer always participated in those discussions. This is from the very beginning, January of 2017. So I know they understand the issues surrounding race, conversations around it. Are they perfect in understanding? No. But our police chief announced that he's willing to now work with the San Ramon Valley Diversity Coalition Committee to expand the process of building trust in the community. And that was my desire for a very long time, that we have a Citizens Police Advisory Committee that would work with the police and the residents to create that feeling of trust. So I was very happy to hear that. It took a little while to get us there, but we are there. But destroying property, vandalism, that is not a sign of something that is going to change permanently. That is anger that is being played out. I don't encourage that. I don't encourage conversation around that. I am for law and order and discipline. Follow the policies. As a politician, it becomes my responsibility to ensure that very good policies are put in place, whether you're hiring officers, training, things like that, to build trust. So
Great.
That's my thought on it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that. Nisha, as a mom, and of course, you know, what is your decision on the vaccine? You need to unmute yourself. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah,
so what are your thoughts on the vaccine? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like that our government should take their enough time for enough testing, that they prove that it's working for us and safe. As a mother, even as an individual, I won't take it until it's proven safe. And I'm a choice person. I will say that we should not mandate it unless it is proven 100% safe for everybody. But yes, definitely for the vulnerable people, older communities, if they want to do it, that's fine, but not for everyone, because everyone has different immunity system. But once it's proven safe, I do not mind taking it, but I do not want to mandate it either, because as a mother, I think it should be your choice how you want your kids. They should take it or they should not. And about the BLM, I think I stand with my minority populations, colored people. I'm myself a colored person. I come from India, and I completely understand. But I will raise the concern here is under the name of BLM, Black Lives Matter, what happened? I think people played politics here. They have completely hijacked the movement here. The purpose of BLM was to raise voices that they are being cornered, they are being targeted. I completely condemn the way George Floyd was killed. And I completely ask the questions that they should do the required law things against those police officers. They should be, you know, they should be blamed for that. But just 2 of the police officers' wrong things, you cannot blame the whole police community. I also back the blue. I also stand with law and enforcement. But yes, definitely we do need reforms, and I completely stand with my Black community there. But not at the cost of our security, our safety, because the way they are doing the riots, the lootings, this is condemnable. America is not known for that. I completely understand they feel that they are neglected, but this is not the way to make your voices heard. You have to have the right representatives there who know your problems. And I consider myself one of them, that I stand with them to raise their main things to the law enforcements there. And yes, we need law changes there. We need reforms there, but we lack in funds there too. Defunding is not the solution. Actually, I spoke to many of the police chiefs here, especially in Danville, in San Ramon. I met them personally, and I had an open conversation with them. They said we have to build that trust back. And how they can do it, they said they go to the schools, but now COVID has taken that opportunity too. They go visit schools and they have a good relationship with the high schoolers so that they have a trustworthy relationship. So if they have any problems, they can talk to them. And I was glad to know that this thing worked really good from so many years. But yes, we do need more reform, but defunding and riots and tearing down the statues, I am completely against it. This is not the way to protest. And definitely we have to raise our voices if something wrong is done there.
Thank you for that, Nisha. Thank you so much. Naz, your thoughts on the vaccine and the BLM movement.
Thank you very much. Now we are in a very different lifestyle. This is a time where we are more advanced country and more advanced in technological ways. So we want to make sure that it is effective and it is safe, and we understand the necessary of painstaking. So it is important for us to have vaccine, but we cannot rush into it, because when we are in panic, we tend to rush. So it is a very costly deployment. So yes, thinking that I am a mother, and if my son goes through anything like that, I have to think twice before I also rush into it and make sure that these are actually tested, and then it is safe for our Americans to be able to go through this testing and use it and utilize it and be able to take those vaccines. So we don't want to be having, because we know where FDA failed and where our leaders failed in giving us the wrong information and what other things to try on. And we are a very diverse country and a diverse city as well. So we want to make sure that we understand and speak to everyone in such a way, in a very simplified way, so that it makes sense for people to not get into the wrong side of vaccine and wrong other usage of vaccine. So it costs a life of so many Americans and so many families and friends. So we want to make sure that if I'm going to use any vaccine, I would want to make sure that it is not causing any side effects and it is something very effective. So at this time, I will have to make sure I see and not rush into it.
And really quickly, because we have another 15 minutes to go and then it was time to wrap up, your thoughts on the BLM movement?
The BLM movement, I support that. And social justice is really needed in the country. It's being long due, and there's nothing more I can say than just I agree. And as a matter of fact, life of Blacks matter is I'm going to take a knee if I have to be out there standing for them. I have heard about all the candidates, couldn't agree enough. Yes, they are all on the same page as me, and I'm understanding that our community is on the same page, regardless whether you have that much demographics in the city or no. When it comes to lives of Black Lives Matter, we come from countries where there are always equality being placed, always inclusiveness is there. So we want to make sure that we respect and we also take care of our values and equality and social justice. So I am for Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I've got so many questions. I'm probably going to have to bring you ladies back. My gosh. I think it's women empowerment. People are sitting there going, okay, women are in politics. We need to ask them these questions. But we're nearing our last 10, 12 minutes. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to ask you one question that's come from Yogi Chug. And I always love his questions. And then in that, if you could answer that question, also give me a quick closing statement about what is at least one or two things you're going to do if you win your seat. So I'll begin with you three. My first question is, have you faced any challenges since you announced your candidacy, your position to run for this city council? Have you had to deal with any kind of oppositions or challenges?
I would say the biggest challenge has been sort of people questioning me about whether I'm qualified or too young to run. I think that is not necessary in the sense that, especially when we are facing so many of the challenges that we face today with the pandemic, with Black Lives Matter movement, we need new voices. We need diversity of perspectives. And the new normal is just, there is no normal anymore, because everything that we've done up until 2020 has completely shifted. The fact that we are now all working from home, all doing school from home. We have not seen friends and family in person in months now. And it's expected that we'll continue in this way for the next 6 months to 1 year. That I think that it is actually important to have someone of a different generation, someone who is bringing new ideas and has experience working in policy to actually kind of represent that generation and bring about new types of change. Which is why I think that while maybe people see my face and think I am young and maybe I have good genes and I look like high school versus in my 20s, I think it's important that we need people like me to run. And there's been so many evidence of great leaders who are of a younger generation. For example, AOC, we have Michael Tubbs in Stockton, who was endorsed by President Obama and Oprah, and recently had a documentary. These are classmates of mine at Stanford. For example, Jackie Fielder running for in San Francisco. So I think having role models of young people running is really important. I think that is a reason for people like me and even the next generation to step up and run for politics, because we are the ones facing the next change. And if we don't have a world where we can actually live in, for example, with wildfires threatening us, it's impossible to do so. And then to
totally second you on that. We need some young blood, new energy to the system for sure.
And then, sorry.
Yes, your question about what is at least one priority that if you win the seat, what are you planning to do to make a difference in Dublin?
I think the two main things that are important for me in Dublin, coming from a business and economic development background, is really supporting our local businesses. It's really difficult for them to recover from and adapt to COVID-19, especially as everything is done over e-commerce now. And so the things that I have in mind, and something that I'm actually launching this week, is around how to support our local community members to buy local, especially since there have been changes by the Alameda County now of what is open versus not open, who is able to offer outdoor seating versus not. And so if you're a Dublin local and a resident and you want to figure out which areas that you can actually support and buy local from, please look out for my website, muppidi.com, where I'm putting together a campaign on buy local in Dublin.
It's wonderful. We got 3 schools in Dublin. I'm definitely going to have them reach out to you. So thank you very much on that. And Aparna, moving on to you. So
my biggest challenge, actually, I turned it into my strength. So it was on public display of what I was, it was an example of what I was facing. And it has been because of my race and my gender. And I was called a very endearing name. I was called a camel jockey. That's how I look like, apparently. So I felt, I love camels.
Whoa.
So I felt that was a huge compliment to me, that people at least aligning me with some animal that has come in handy for people.
Love your humor.
Well, that's how you have to deal with stuff that comes your way when you're running for public office. You sign up for this. So for me, the challenge has not been a challenge because I turned everything into a strength for me. And it made me even more determined to be in this race and not quit, and prove that the staying power is not just because of what I signed up to do, but because what I believe in. And I really believe it's time for change, change in a way that is positive and inspiring for others. What was the other question? What am I going to do?
Yes,
bring some fun back in San Ramon. God, we have been indoors, and with the pandemic, it has been an opportunity for me to explore. We have so many great businesses, small businesses, who can partner with the city council and do such great fun stuff for the residents. Please, let's just have some fun and in the process promote our small businesses and have them have fun while they're getting their revenues up. So yes, that is my biggest priority. Have fun, work hard, and enjoy being in San Ramon.
And you know, on that note, my very first franchise opened in San Ramon, and now we have 3 in so San Ramon, Dublin. That's where I when I franchised Genius Kids, that's exactly where I targeted before I even targeted Fremont, believe it or not. So that was wonderful.
You chose a wonderful city.
I did.
We
No, the
hope
lady,
to
and
see
they're all women-owned. They're all women-owned businesses, all of them. You know, all the
young
ones in Dublin. So I love it. Absolutely
Yeah.
love it. Yes. Thank you for that. And you know, I admire you for taking that comment that way. Most people would have fallen apart. Camel jockey, is that what it is?
Yes.
I'm going to call you later to find out why that was given to you.
I don't even know if we have a camel jockey, but it's a good name to have. I love it. The candidate who looks like a camel jockey. If that helps you vote, please remember that.
On that note, Nisha, you're moving over to you. Did you face any challenges when you decided to run for district, and your thoughts on that?
Definitely. I won't complain that, yes, I faced many threatening emails, text messages, even in the mid of the night, that they know which school my kids go, and they call me names. But first night I was disturbed. I couldn't sleep because when they said they know which school my kids go, and I was a little scared. And then I spoke to police officers, and they said the numbers, they are fake. They call from their laptops, or you cannot trace them. And the emails, a lot of emails being calling me names, and even without knowing about my policies, my platforms, just by the party affiliation, they will call me racist, and I relate this with a lot of my supporters too. They haven't said a single line. They haven't said what they believe for anything happening today, but still they are called racist just by their skin color. And I completely condemn that. I was disturbed before, but yes, that's what we signed up for, right? And I'm ready for that. I have taken this battle really head on, and I'm all set to answer them back that I'm not a puppet. I have a voice, and I will make sure that I make this noise to Washington, D.C. very loud and clear. They will listen to me.
Thank you for that. And if you get the seat, what's the first thing you want to do, and what's the first change you want to do?
My District 11, because of this COVID, my small businessmen, they have suffered the most. So first thing I want is that to bring the policies that they can get the better taxation rebates, and who have already closed their businesses to have a better loan systems for them so that they can rebuild their businesses back, and my district, it blooms. That's what I want. And the homelessness crisis, nobody's noticing it, that Contra Costa County is not suffering from there. But no, after San Francisco, Contra Costa County is the second map for the homeless people. And I won't say that all of them need help, but yes, there are many people who are suffering because of losing their jobs, not able to afford their rents. So definitely I want to work towards that because they deserve a second chance, and they are one of us. You never know what time brings you. So I really want to help my homeless population in District 11, and the infrastructure, better BART system. I did a monkey survey, and people are very much frustrated with this 40-year-old BART system here. We do have funds, but I think nobody is raising questions. So my campaign, Nisha for Congress, is about accountability and responsibility. So if we bring the funds and we have the funds, they should be used wisely. That's what my campaign is for.
Thank you so much for that. And last but not least, Naz, what are your thoughts? Did you face any challenges? I mean, this is Fremont. And as you know, Fremont has been dominated by so many different communities, especially the position of mayor. And I know there was a person of color who ran before, and now it's Naz, and that to a woman again. And it's always unusual to see that. So what are your thoughts on that? Did you face any challenges, and how are you dealing with them?
Thank you very much. Yes, I did. And first of all, that question comes out to be that I have never run in any of the council member seats. I've never been in the office. And also it says that I'm not a politician. And then I'm said that, oh, I am a face of a beautiful face running around and doing model or singing and entertainer. How am I going to be in the office running for this type of office? Those are the challenges, that questions and things been coming around to me. Well, that's a great thing. And I think all of them are, as a matter of fact, is marvelous stuff, and the strong things that I carried as a positive way. I don't need to be a politician, as I mentioned before, that to run this office, you are running with the managers, with team of managers in the government body. And I have experience with corporate finance industry. I understand the administration side of a federal regulation, because banks always works in license, federal regulations, understands the privacy and the policies. So I've been around in the privacy policy with federal regulations, state regulations, understanding the housing regulations and mortgages. When you talk about the people, the businesses you talk to, people, you want to grow their business. So those are sides that I understand that their administration sides involved. Now, being in the community as a face of entertainment, I am one of those who are very social. So I would love to have a community where we have cohesive, a good environment of entertainment, because we have wealth of engineers and children of all ethnicity, of all diverse community, and then we can bring other talents and making sure that their life prospers and we have a next generation, have a brighter future. So have a lot of ideas with kids. We have, you know, our demographic is so thick with our Asian community, and there are a lot of talents in there. So if you look at their education and their experience, we are a wealthy community. And I'm sure we just need to get together and work more collectively rather than just being arrogant and alone and thinking about all those irresponsible developments. So I believe that this is my position, that the other question leads to that is, if I am chosen, if I become a mayor of Fremont, I will work on the wealth of our engineers, with our diverse community, to make sure we bring the business back in our city, have people work within the city rather than going all around the Bay Area commuting. And we want to make sure that, why don't we start our startup companies in Fremont rather than having it San Jose or Santa Clara, Cupertino and other places, and make sure that we have responsible housing infrastructure. Make sure our roads are first of all made in a way to take care of our thick traffic before we end up doing irresponsible developments. So there are developments done, but they are not a certain percentage given to the low income or the senior families, and our senior families are moving out of the city. We have very poor parks. We want to make sure that if my grandparents or my parents goes to the park, we have a better restroom, we have well-designed parks, we have energy that is more efficient and effective and gives night light, and it is well designed for in case of emergencies. And we want to make sure that we have better commute system. And that's I was thinking about having like smaller electric bus rather than having like a bus that comes after 45 minutes and is like not frequent service. So people love that idea. Just say, oh, that is really nice to have like a small electric bus, be able to provide free service to our children to go to school, as well as have our seniors to have like a more frequent service, and those people who are using public transport. So it's really great to have something to think about people, not to just like thinking irresponsible developments in the city.
Thank you so much. And guys, you know what, believe it or not, I wanted to get to closing statements, but I did give you a chance to all talk about at least one or two things you'll be doing if you win your seat. I'd love to extend it, but I also have to rush because I also have another full-time job, and like the rest of us. But thank you so much. And my message to all the listeners today is, a woman just doesn't belong in the House. She can belong in the House of Representatives too. So you know what? Don't just restrict women and think that we're only good for one thing, because we are very capable. We can multitask better than men. We can get things done. And if anything, I think we're a lot stronger. And that's my bias towards women anyway. So thank you, ladies. Aparna, Sri, Nisha, Naz, thank you so much for making the time to come on our show on Voices. And I wish you all the very best in your campaign. I wish you the best in everything. And I hope you don't have to deal with any controversies or problems. But then if you've chosen politics, you're going to have to face them. And on that note, thank you again. Thank you, Radio Zindagi, Saba, Neeraj. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.